everybody, and welcome to another episode of Book HQ. Today I'm going to be talking about another one of the books which was on my TBR list from that video of mine where I talked about my TBR list. And the book is 13 Reasons Why by Jay Asher. I have a lot to say about this book, and I'm going to try and keep it short, but it's going to be hard because I have so much to say about it. So first of all, it's not a very long book. You can finish it in a night, or you can read it over a couple of afternoons. At first, I kind of found it a little bit difficult to read because everything in the story takes place over one evening. The main character, Clay, gets the tapes on his doorstep, and then he's listening to them over the course of one night. And so the whole story unfolds over that night, and then the next day, the story comes to a conclusion. You're getting the whole story from two perspectives, from Clay and obviously from Hannah Baker's perspective, who's the girl who's committed suicide, because she's narrating the tapes that Clay is listening to. So the part which I found distracting was that, like, sometimes as she's narrating the story, he, like, interrupts her with his thoughts and be like, oh yeah, I remember that, or, like, give his opinion on what she's saying. And I found that a little bit distracting in the beginning, but, like, after a couple pages, I stopped noticing that so much. The book talks about a lot of issues, especially issues that affect women. It looks at harassment of women and how early that starting just from high school, and it shows you the different ways in which women experience harassment from males through the chain of events that happened to her in the story. I thought that was really important to talk about, and I thought it was good that it was illustrated in very many different ways. However, there are several things that are not good about this story, and there have been a lot of articles about the book, people who are upset. I'm assuming there's been a lot of controversy about it. I haven't read any of those articles, but I didn't want them to affect my opinion of it before having read it, and I still haven't read them. So some of the main issues that I had with the book is that Hannah Baker, at first I thought she was an unreliable narrator, but then later on I realized that she wasn't really. It's all from her perspective, so it's very subjective. And then, like, she's the worst decision maker in the history of decision makers ever, because she puts herself oftentimes in terrible situations knowing that the outcome is going to be terrible. And then she wants to be upset about it. But it's like, you knew this was going to be the outcome. And you even mention it. She says it before, like, oh, was it a good idea? No. But I wanted to, blah, blah, blah. Or she'll be like, do I trust this person? No. But, you know, I still wanted to believe in blah, blah, blah. And then this person does exactly what she thought they would do, or she knew they would do before. And then she's shocked and upset or whatever. And that kind of feels to me like, what's the saying? Stupidity is repeating the same actions and expecting different outcomes. I felt like that a lot when I was reading her account of things. My biggest problem with all her account of things is that she puts far too much emphasis on other people's involvement in her life and her decision making. All of this happened because of the chain of events of all these people who did these things to her. People do things, which is then the cause, and the effect is that at the end she killed herself. I don't think that that's how it should be. Growing up, my dad always told us you have to be responsible for yourself. The other thing is that I don't agree with, or that really were problematic for me as I was reading the book, there are many things, is that the final person on the list, who happens to be their, like, I think he's their English teacher, but he also doubles as the counselor. So she's like, this is my last chance. I'm going to try and see if I can get help, and I'm going to give life one last chance. So let's see how you do, Mr. Porter. So she goes to see him for help. But then he asks her questions because he wants to help her. And she's being vague and cryptic, and he can't really give her useful information or really help her because he doesn't know what the heck is going on, because she's not answering him properly. And then she gets up and she leaves, and he's like, don't go, you don't have to go in a hurry, like, please stay, don't go. She leaves his office, and then because she's recording this session, by the way, which I think is a douchebag move, and then when she leaves, she's like, he's letting me go, the door is still closed. And it's like, this is not a romance movie where the guy is gonna run after you in the rain to keep you. He said several times, don't go, you don't have to go, where are you going in a hurry? If you decided to leave, that's not his fault, and he cannot be held accountable for you. The other issue that I have is that, like, in the book she lists all these people who've done these things, and she lists one guy who was a peeping Tom, and he violated her privacy because he was coming to her house and taking pictures of her while she didn't know. And then so she used to look at the stars at night before she went to bed, and now, like, that small pleasure in her life was taken away from her. I totally understand. Now she has to close her shutters all the time because she knows he comes and he peeps at her. But then she also mentions another guy who raped an unconscious girl. They were at this party, and this girl was with some dude. The dude and her go into this room, and she passes out, and the dude is like, all right, I'm gonna tuck her in, and I'll, come back later when she comes to, and try and put the moves on her again. But then he's standing guard in front of the door, and his buddy, who's a douchebag, who appears several times in Hannah's retelling of the series of events, he comes through and he's like, all I need is a few minutes with her, just let me in. And the guy concedes. He lets this person in, and this person sexually assaults a girl who's completely unconscious. That for me was jarring to read. And so Hannah happens to be in the room, but nobody knows that she's there, and she's hiding in a closet. I think it's plausible, I'm not going to say I completely understand, but I think it's plausible that she stayed hidden in there because she's also inebriated, and she doesn't want to, like, reveal herself because the guy could turn around and rape her. I get that. But then afterwards, she beats herself up about it, and she's like, I did this terrible thing. I ruined that girl's life because I didn't do anything about it. Yes, I agree you did. Because the minute that guy was done, she could have walked out and called the cops and be like, I'm at this party. This dude is still here. I've just witnessed him raping somebody who was unconscious. Like, come now. The cops, 911, somebody. They could have given the girl a rape kit. The guy could have been apprehended. Anything. She does nothing. And she continues to do nothing throughout the semester. Doesn't say anything to anyone. Why? You should have done more, and you could have done more, and it boggles my mind why you didn't do anything. The other thing I had issues with is that, like, everybody who's received the tape knows who all the culprits are. Like, we are all in this, like, clique of people who caused Hannah to kill herself, and we all know each other. We all know who each other is because we've all listened to the tapes. Okay, so now everybody who's in this group of people who's on the tapes has heard that there's this peeping Tom, but they've also heard that there's this mother who raped a girl who was unconscious, who could not give her consent, right? And the person who people are so upset about and are going to this guy's house and throwing bricks and stones and all sorts at his window and have broken it, the person who they're doing that to is the peeping Tom, right? Like, if it were me, and I feel like a whole bunch of other normal human beings, where I'd be is at the house of the rapist. I'd be there with my pitchfork and all the villagers, and we would be there with torches ready to mess someone up. So I didn't understand, like, what all this supposed anger was with the peeping Tom. I think it was misdirected. So people are more offended by somebody who is voyeuristic than they are with somebody who sexually assaults an unconscious person or somebody who can't consent. Like, what? I was like, this is stupid. I think this is the first book that I've ever reviewed and been like, nah. But in the end, after having read it, as I said, there's some good points. It really does show all the different ways in which a woman can be harassed or violated and how young it starts. I think that it would have been better if it showed also the many ways in which these things could have been avoided or they could have been helped. Another point also that I want to mention very quickly is that there's one girl in the book who I think also is a culprit, but she's just like, so I feel like as women out there in the world, we're kind of always targets to some kind of harassment in our daily lives. And in a way, I kind of feel like we're all sort of responsible for each other, or we should try and help each other. And this chick was just not, she was in it for herself. She was not interested in helping anybody. Each man for himself, God for us all was her motto. And that made me cringe. And I hope that as societies, we can do something about being more supportive of each other in those kind of situations. Because close to the end, she leaves Hannah alone with this guy. Granted, Hannah walked into that situation fully knowing what she wanted to do, but still, she's just like, bye. And anything could happen to Hannah. I was appalled by that character. So overall, after having read the book, I'm not feeling particularly inspired to go and watch the TV series on Netflix. But you never know, when the spirit of boredom strikes, you can find yourself watching hours and hours of Netflix of a show that you totally never thought you would ever be caught dead doing. So I'm not gonna say I'm not gonna watch it. Don't be surprised if down the line somewhere I'm here doing a video where I'm like, oh, and now we're gonna compare 13 Reasons Why, the TV series, and the book. But yeah, as for right now, with how I feel, if you have read the book, share those thoughts with me in the comments. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please go ahead and do so. I really appreciate the support and I appreciate you coming over here to watch this video. But until next time, keep reading and keep watching. Bye-bye.